welcome everybody to another one of our SuperSpeed Golf webinars. Joined here today with a good friend of ours, Tyler Standifird, from out in Utah. Tyler, how you doing?
Yeah, doing great. Good weather here, playing a little golf. So happy to be with you today.
Yeah, Tyler is one of those extremely fancy golf science types. So we're going to talk a lot about, I would say, the main topic today is technology and using technology for speed training in the best way. So I wanted to have Tyler here because, we've used a lot of technology at SuperSpeed over the years. He's using it daily in his lab out in Utah. So want to get a good perspective from multiple different areas there on how all of this is going to work. Just a couple logistics. We're going to go through a little presentation here first. If you have any questions, type them in the chat pane or the Q&A section. Kyle Shea, the other founder of SuperSpeed, is going to be around also answering some of your questions by text. And then he's also going to be, organizing some of those questions for us after we get done with this initial presentation. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to get this rocking. We really appreciate everybody spending a little time with us today. And if there's any questions that we can help answer about anything technology oriented in the golf world, especially as it relates to speed, we're going to try to do that here during this this little presentation. So here we go. So I'll start this off for just a second, Tyler, and then I want to get your perspective on a few things. But as with anything, I think technology is something that changes a lot. It has changed the way we learn the game of golf. Some ways in absolutely wonderful ways. I think in other ways, in ways that can actually inhibit some people from getting better. Have you ever seen that type of thing happen?
Yeah, it's kind of, the saying, right, Mike, is like paralysis by analysis, where I think, you get someone in like maybe one of my TrackMan facilities where I'm collecting a lot of data, and they don't know about the numbers and they get overwhelmed by the numbers. They don't know what to focus on. They've maybe seen something on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, and they get overly focused on some number that maybe really has nothing to do with the part of their swing that they need to worry about. And so I think when we talk about technology, Mike, it's not that you need a PhD in biomechanics to use the technology, but I think it's important that we kind of understand the benefits and what players, I guess, can use, right, Mike? And maybe what coaches need to understand. And then what's that piece that maybe a golf researcher like myself could come in and kind of help fill in the missing pieces as well.
Yeah, I think you're hitting right on it. I think it's a very important thing to look at in golf, because golf has absolutely just light-yeared past every other sport when it comes to analysis technology and different things that are out there. I mean, at our academies, we used launch monitors, force plates, 3D motion capture systems, a lot of the same stuff that you use. And one of the rules that I always had was looking very carefully at the way we used that technology as coaches and the way we recommended that our players use that technology and different technology, to get the most out of it. One of the biggest things that I feel is important when we're talking about players, when this is the golfer, this is the person trying to improve. One of the most important things for the player when it comes to technology is something we call feedback. Now, feedback can come in a lot of different forms. That could be a coach giving you a yay or nay on if you did a drill right, or if you're using technology, it might be having a range of acceptable values, even if you don't really know what they mean, but knowing that when you do that drill, the outcome that you're producing is within the good range or it's within the bad range. And if you think about that in a way, I think that's something that we use with SuperSpeed a lot, just using like the little PRGR launch monitor when you're out there swing training. Like if you can see how fast that club's moving during your speed training, the analogy I always use is this: like if you make what you feel like is the fastest swing of your life, and you look down at the launch monitor and it says you went 3 miles an hour slower, that immediately clicks to your brain, that feedback that, oh, whatever I just did, whatever that felt like, didn't make me faster. And then the next one, you look down and it's 3-4 miles an hour faster. It's like, wow, that feel made me faster. So that's kind of what I think the primary use of technology should be for players, is feedback, to be able to know that they're actually executing a drill properly or executing something they're trying to do well. On the coach's side, I think you can get a lot more involved. Like from a coach standpoint, that's where, I'm fine if I'm paralyzed by the analysis, because I can take as long as I need to as a coach to look at all of that data and pinpoint the exact underlying causes of whatever's going wrong. So I think that's really important. The problem comes in, and I like to call it the danger zone, is when these two start to start to interact too much. They start to overlap. Players getting too much of the data into the analysis side where they might not really understand it. They try to self-analyze a lot of it, and we have issues there. And coaches at the same time, maybe not having enough knowledge of how the technology works or not have enough detail in how that's going, and they can't provide enough specificity to the player to use it. So, I mean, that's kind of our overall model at SuperSpeed on how we look at the use of technology.
Yeah, and I might just,
do you see similar things like that?
yeah, I was gonna add really quickly, Mike, because I think this is important. Like, sometimes you joke around with me, Mike, that like, I'm the golf researcher type, but I think SuperSpeed was created based on some really phenomenal technology. Mike and I have had a lot of conversations where he's done a ton of 3D motion capture, force plate technology. I mean, sometimes I think that Mike tries to, I don't know, dumb down what he knows, but when he was creating SuperSpeed, these conversations I had with him, man, it was really based on utilizing this technology to create the very best product. So I want to make sure that everyone out there knows that that Mike can hold his own with me without a doubt. But that being said, I think what you brought up is really important, Mike, and I think that's what we're trying to do here today, especially as it relates to speed training, is say, hey, we've found out some things. Mike's done it in his research at the beginning of SuperSpeed. I've been really able to kind of run with that and kind of take over some of that in my own labs. And we figured out some things that I think we can kind of be on that red zone and analyze the data. And then we want to give you the feedback that you should know and stay away from this danger zone so that you can get the very most out of your speed training and know what's working for you and what could work better.
Exactly. What's important for you, the player, is to get more speed, is to get faster, is to have success with these products. From our end, it's to know what we're recommending you do with our products, be as specific as possible so that you get the best results. The way we use technology to figure those different aspects out, do have some differences. So let's move on here a little bit. So here's some things that we like for players. So this is now for players. This is the stuff I like for players to measure. The biggest one is before and after club speed. Mm-hmm. So I want you to measure what your starting club speed was. If you can be hitting balls, great, and have a way to be able to measure your speed while hitting a ball, fantastic. If you can't hit a ball, measure your speed on a practice week. But I want to know, what is your speed before you do a speed training session, and what is your speed after that session? That can tell us a lot about how well you're doing those drills, if you're being aggressive enough during that program, because we know that on average we see about a 5% jump in speed when people are going through these protocols properly. That, I think, is a really big one. The next one is how fast those individual super speed clubs are moving during the process of the protocols. And this is one I want to let Tyler talk about a little bit too in a second, because I think he's got some really good information on this as well from a lot of the research studies he's done. But we'll find that there's some players that can make the green club, make the lightest club in the set, move significantly faster than their normal swing speed. I mean, we're talking 25-30% faster, like really, really fast. And then they get up to the red club and it's only moving like 5 or 6% faster. We have other players who might only move the green club 10% faster than their normal speed, and by the time they get to the red club, they're almost the same. They're moving it, the red club, almost as fast as they're moving the green club. And I think there's a lot of different potential characteristics about that player that have you fall into a certain different bucket on those different things, and some things we may even be able to recommend to you if you know those tendencies to optimize your training.
Yeah, and I think that's something I am seeing in my lab a little bit, Mike, when I watch these golfers, and just maybe one small piece that I've seen a little bit is it does seem like some of those golfers that tend to get a little bit leading with the trunk, leading with the arms, those are some of my guys who potentially get that greens club going really quickly, but the red club isn't quite to the percentage above the driver that we'd like to see, and then vice versa, interestingly enough. And so those are the kind of things that Mike's bringing up that I think are really important, that as we interact with our users and as we kind of give some feedback to say, hey, you know, if this is a club that you're not moving as fast as you would like, or is that we're recommending, you know, here are some things that you can key in on, some different things that you can look at. Now,
Yep.
Interestingly enough, Mike, I think we get a question a lot from people about, like, which club is the most important, right? Which is the value that I need to be swinging the fastest? And I think, again, that's a tough question to answer. When I was at the Power Level 3 at TPI last week, Justin James said all he cares about is that green club speed. That's it. That's all he looks at. I pulled some data on some of the stuff I've been doing in my lab, and the biggest predictor of driver club head speed was the green club on the non-dominant side. And so I think there's some cool things we're starting to find out about these, and we're just going to know more and more about this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say if we look at the first piece here, the before and after speed, this is going to tell you, are you doing the drills properly? Are you doing the training properly to be able to get a result? Looking at the individual speeds of those clubs, I think that definitely starts to key in a little bit more specificity about your personalized program, if you will. And then the last piece that we really want to see is this speed transferring when you get out on the golf course? Are you able to access these new motor programs and really get, you know, that's what we're after, right? We actually want to hit the ball farther on the golf course. I don't care how fast you can swing the green club in a closed environment. I mean, Tyler gets really giddy and excited when he sees someone blasting the green club in his lab. But what I want to see is you out on the first tee, bombing it 20 yards past your buddies. So I think that's another piece that we'll look at here in a second. And really what we want to do now is show you a lot of the different technology that we'd recommend that you use, or if you haven't used, at least give a shot and see if you can measure some of these things. The first one, which I think many of you might already own, is the PRGR launch monitor. We've been selling these for a couple years now, and it's the best option out on the market to be able to measure before and after club speed, and also the speed of the super speed clubs when you're not hitting a golf ball. And that's a really important piece. There's so many great launch monitors out there. Some of the most expensive ones can't measure how fast you're swinging during a practice swing. That's something that the PRGR can do. It's a really simple device, measures these 5 metrics: club speed, ball speed, smash factor, total distance, and carry distance. So you just have to change a mode for the carry and total. But we love this device. We think this is probably the #1 thing. If you're going to pair one piece of technology with your super speed training, this is the one. This is the #1 on the list. And then there's a whole bunch of other cool stuff where we can go past that. Have you had good results with PRGR?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we went back to that feedback of the players, I think when we can give golfer a simple feedback when they're speed training, I think it makes a world of difference. And I've seen that so many times in the lab where I'm introducing the drill positions and I have the PRGR down behind them. And like you said, they swing something that the number is really fast, and it's almost like you can watch them, their brain working and learning this new pattern to say, what did I do to make that go fast? And then they make that swing again. And so I think that feedback piece with the PRGR, to know what's fast, to know what's not fast, to learn how your body is making these clubs go fast. I've seen a lot of incredible things with that in my lab, for sure.
I mean, you just outlined the secret to human motor learning, right? Feel something different that makes a positive change, try to do it again. Like, that is the process of learning. So, you know, this allows that to happen very easily with the super speed system. Mm-hmm. Now, for all of you that love more technical analysis of this stuff, we just launched a new program this week in conjunction with Blast Motion, where you can now actually measure your super speed training speeds with a Blast Motion sensor. Now, this is really cool stuff, because this is kind of taking, you know, being able to measure before and after club speed, and also those speeds of the super speed clubs during the session. And really, you could do this out on the golf course as well, and measure swings that you're taking out on the golf course with Blast as well. I think this takes it to the next level. This is the one-stop shop for getting a bunch of great data about your speed training This is also going to save all of that data in the Blast app, allow you to see progress, allow you to see where you started and how fast you've gotten, how fast each one of the clubs have gotten. You can, kind of drill down into all of your speed training data in a really seamless, easy to use package here with Blast. It's really cool. It tracks everything automatically. It knows when you're swinging dominant side, non-dominant side. Like, this thing's amazing. I mean, Tyler, you've done some testing. I've played around with it too, obviously, and I love it. But I think this is really kind of a wave of the future for us on being able to, measure a lot of these different aspects, and possibly in the future even know a lot of other things about that player's swing to make other good swing recommendations outside of just speed training.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the first iteration of this, Mike, of being able to measure swings and record them automatically and go back and look at your progress is such a huge thing. But we've been working with Blast for a long time because this is something that we felt like would be so beneficial for our users out there. And like every piece of technology, as we get it in the hands of our users and start to learn more about it, this is just going to get better and better. And yeah, I mean, we're excited about where this can go. I think the other great thing about Blast is, we don't want to give you something that's only for speed training. Of course, that's our primary goal at Super Speed. But with Blast, we can add on these kind of other great features where you can get things like, attack angles and swing tempos, and there's some great putting analysis on there. I mean, there's just a lot of great features of Blast in addition to those swing speeds that we feel like this could be something that like you said, our tech guys that are really gung-ho about this stuff can really enjoy as a holistic part of their golf game.
I mean, I know there's definitely people out there listening that have sent us, pages of Excel spreadsheets of the speed of every swing they've ever taken in years of super speed training. This is for you guys. I mean, this is the way to go. We're really excited about this partnership with Blast. We're really excited about the work that they've done on the engineering side to get all of this to work and really be able to measure these air swings and practice swings in the training and create such a great platform for people to be able to monitor their speed training, see it, and go. Honestly, like, again, I think this just launched this week. These things are flying off the shelves too, Tyler. We have a special little pack of extra caps, so you don't even have to like move the caps off your club when you're going through it. But check out all the new stuff we've got with Blast. I think you're going to love it. The app is amazing, and just all of the tracking, the fact that it automatically tracks all those swings when you're going through a protocol just makes life so easy when you're doing all this.
Yeah, I even love, Mike, when it pops up a dialogue that tells me to switch my active club after I've taken 6 swings with the green club, right? I mean, it's just incredible how user friendly this is. So
yeah, and this is just phase 1. We're actually already in development of the stage 2 app for this, where everything's going to be we're going to hold your hand going through the training even more. So be looking for that and more updates. But yeah, I definitely, if you don't have a Blast sensor, pick this up. It works with SuperSpeed now, all integrated into their app. Another new product that we just picked up and launched recently around Father's Day was ShotScope. Now, personally, out on the golf course, you are never going to find me without a laser rangefinder. I mean, it was actually interesting when we were over I actually just got back from a golf trip over in Ireland this last week, and I mean, honestly, like, such a great time. One, beautiful golf courses, and the caddies over there are amazing, and they're really fun. But I mean, I'll be honest, like, though, multiple times we showed up and I'd pull my rangefinder out and the caddy would yell at me like, "What, don't you believe me?" And I'm like, well, it's not that. I just, like, part of my game is I need to know exactly how far it is to the pin. I want to know how far it is to different obstacles out on the course. And, they're just like, no, just, hit it 130. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to know more, right? I like to have that information on the course gives me confidence. Well, ShotScope's got the first rangefinder that actually couples with a GPS system while you're out on the course. So not only can you get, laser measured distances to various different objects out there, but you've also at the same time got a GPS device on the back of it or on a watch that shows you front, middle, back, that shows you different various, items out on the course. So I'm pretty happy with this. I know, Tyler, you're a newer rangefinder user on the course.
Yeah,
But
this was and again, the rangefinder component is that key piece. And Mike, you talked about this GPS enabled device, and Mike, I can't resist an option to talk, or an opportunity to talk about some of my research. So is it okay if I give a little sneak peek of this
get in.
research study I'm doing? Okay,
I mean, of
so
course, you're a scientist, Tyler. I can't stop you.
I
I'm
know
not
you
going to
can't.
stifle you like that.
This was a piece that when I started doing some of the consulting work for SuperSpeed, this is where I wanted to eventually get to, because they've done such a great job showing swing speeds were increasing. I did some cool stuff on force that we'll look at a little bit later on, but this was a piece where it's like, what is actually transferring to the golf course with these? And so currently right now, I've got a set of golfers. They just got their SuperSpeed sets delivered to them yesterday. And what I did is I utilized this shot scope, the V3, that watch right there, and the little sensors in the clubs. And I have all of their kind of baseline data that is strokes gained off the tee, how far they're hitting clubs, fairways hit, what they missed left, what they missed right. I mean, everything under the sun on this, Mike. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to speed train them for the next, I don't know, six to 8 weeks. And then we're going to go back out on the same golf courses that they play week after week and look and see what is actually transferring on the course. We get so many questions from our users, Mike, about, am I going to miss more fairways? And am I going to bring in more penalty strokes? And what we're really seeing is that golfers are just hitting the ball better out on the course. And so this is a chance for me to really put some data to it. And I think as I've used this as my own device, Mike, man, it's been really cool to see. I actually tweeted something the other day because I hit a 3-wood 260 yards, which is just a huge 3-wood for me. Had this that tracked it. And anyway, keep your eye open for some of these research studies I'm going to share with you on this, because it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that stuff too. I mean, that's the other great thing about this system is you can actually mark where all your shots were out on the golf course, so you can really see your real-time stats, just like you were looking them up on PGAtour.com. So,
Yeah.
You want to find a way to really see if the speed training and the work that you're doing is applying to your game in a positive way. Here it is. I mean, we're really excited about this. I think it's one of the cooler pieces of technology that's been out in a long time.
Yeah,
so.
and I'll just say it is so easy to use. Like I click one button that tells how many putts I made, and occasionally I have to click a button that says I had a penalty shot. But I mean, it's so easy. I get to upload the round. Now though, I will say this, Mike, my wife now knows to count some extra time at the end of my round, because I like to go in and see how the round went and see where I was doing well and where I needed to improve. And she's like, well, there you are, looking at your shot scope data again. So cool piece of tech.
Tyler. You looking at data seems crazy. Another system that we really like too for out on the course is more of a course management system, strategy system that's actually used by a lot of different tour players that we work with, called Decade. So check this out as well. Online, but this is basically helping you make better decisions out on the course. So once you know what your tendencies are about missing left and right and dispersion patterns and all of that sort of thing, this can actually help you use that out on the course and lower your scores. So definitely take a look at all the Decade system. I think it's one of the best that's out there. All right, Tyler, you ready to talk about coaches a little bit more?
Yeah, let's do it.
One of the things that I'd like to say here, the analogy I like to use for a golf coach, is that we're like the radiologists, okay? Tyler's really the radiologist as like the golf scientist, and then the coach is like the doctor, the surgeon that's actually talking to the patient. But one of the things that's very different about the way this works in the medical world and the way it works in the golf world is that most of the time, if you have a knee injury and you go in and have an MRI to see what's going on with your knee, you're not going in and just, well, give me my MRI report. I want to see what's wrong with my knee. You don't know what you're looking at. You want somebody that knows what they're looking at to say, look, here's what's going on with your knee. This is how we're going to fix it. It's going to take this amount of recovery. And that's the process that should happen from a golf coaching standpoint as well. Technology should be used just like the MRI. It shouldn't be for the player. It should really be for the coach to be able to then provide the action plan that's going to help you get better. Now, for those of you that love seeing the numbers and love seeing technology, I mean, when we were coaching at our academy, this is why I always gave people the opportunity to like take a little video or a picture of like the 3D avatar on the screen and then show everybody, look, this is me in a digital skeleton. It's really cool. And honestly, it doesn't mean much. You're not seeing any real data there except for the fact that it looks cool. And then what we would do is give them a whole bunch of drills to fix all the problems we saw. Is that kind of what you see too, Tyler?
Yeah, again, this is that piece that we talked about where I think I guess I've heard it said a lot. It's not like as a coach, it's not like you need to have maybe all the latest and greatest technology, but you do need to understand it. And I think you need to understand how to deliver it, because I think that stuff, Mike, is getting cheaper. My biomechanics equipment, I think there's opportunities for coaches to kind of put it into their lab spaces or into their kind of coaching facilities. And I think being able to take that information and at a level communicate it to their 100%. Players is such an important role, right?
Coaches should use whatever level of technology they understand in and out. They know how it measures stuff. They know every intricate detail of what they're getting. I think, unfortunately, the percentage of coaches that use technology and understand it to that level is not nearly as high as you want it to be. Mm-hmm. But, again, I think it can be used very positively if in the right way. So let's look at a couple of the types of technology that are out there for coaches. Just quickly, I know most people here are probably players, but, the easiest one is video analysis. When I started coaching, we had to buy all of these fancy, expensive video cameras to do, any type of high-speed video or even video that we could see the club face or anything. I mean, now just about every single person out there has an iPhone that can do 250 frames per second in HD, which is amazing. There's some other really cool products out there. Live View Pro is a really good one that kind of creates like a digital mirror situation where you can see yourself moving. My opinion, as a coach, I really want people to focus more on how things feel than how things look. But again, I think there are times, depending on what you're working on, where it is effective to be able to see what you're doing and see if you're doing some of those things properly visually. From a coach standpoint, I think video is great as just a quick on-site analysis tool if someone's doing what you're asking them to do. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and again, I've used video a little bit in my labs, even just to communicate to the golfer, right, Mike? Even more of just, hey, here's video paired with what we're seeing and maybe some of these other pieces, and just to say, hey, here's where you are, and look at this number, and we would rather it kind of be here. And then again, I'm not the coach, right, Mike? So I let guys like you kind of figure out exactly the fixing. I just deliver the data.
No, it's okay. I just have to make sure that you can be understood by the normal population, Tyler. Video analysis is great. Again, I think it doesn't tell the whole story, which is, I think, the problem for most people. Like, there's a lot more this tells you kind of a what of what you're doing. It doesn't tell you why you're doing it. It doesn't tell you how you're doing it. So, got to be a little bit careful with video sometimes. Launch monitors, I think, have changed the world, though. I mean, I think being able to actually measure, how a golf ball and the golf ball and the club head interact and how that produces different ball flights. I mean, heck, as a golf coach, it's rewritten the book on what we even believed, 50 years ago caused different ball flights. So, launch monitors are something I think that can be used very effectively. This is, though, one of those where you can get real quickly into that, analysis by paralysis, looking and getting focused on certain numbers and not knowing how those numbers affect each other, can be a very, very detailed piece that you want to do. And one of the reasons that if I'm recommending a launch monitor to a consumer, it's the PRGR, right? Mm-hmm. It's not TrackMan, because I don't want you to know 30 different metrics about the way you're swinging. I want you to know really simple stuff, and you need to let the coach analyze all the other stuff to figure out what you need to focus on.
Yeah, we have a TrackMan facility near me that popped up where users can hop in and pay to be a member there. And some use it just to play virtual golf in the winter in Utah, which is really fun. Well, one of my buddies did it, and he started looking at all these numbers, and he would come to me and he's like, man, what do these mean? I'm so overwhelmed by what I see in there. And then I start hitting really terrible shots, and I think I'm supposed to be doing this. And again, I think great piece of equipment, as Mike brought up, you have someone that you're working with that can really understand those numbers in and out and deliver to you what you need to do to kind of make them where you're trying to get them to.
Yeah. It's not, I think the way to put this is it's not about chasing numbers. It's about chasing results. Mm-hmm. The numbers just tell us why you may not be getting to the result you want. Maybe that result is hitting the ball 10 yards further, and we see that you've got too much spin coming off relative to your launch angle and things like that. So we can make adjustments that can help you get the result, which is the 20 more yards. Yeah. But again, TrackMan's a fantastic tool, and something that we definitely love that's in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, in my research, Mike, I love. Just last night, I was collecting some data on someone, and their club speed didn't change much, but their carry distances had gone up like 25 yards on a TrackMan, and so I kind of dived into the data a little bit and found that. They were hitting drivers, and their attack angle had gone from a descending, like they're hitting down on the ball, which is really poor for the driver, to actually hitting flat or a little up on the ball, like a drastic difference. And it was like mechanically, there were some things that really improved in their swing a lot as a result of their training, which resulted in 20, 25 extra yards. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool piece for research. But
by the way, we did a little quick study of comparing PRGR to TrackMan just to kind of see where we were as far as accuracy goes. It was pretty amazing. So, this chart shows the orange is TrackMan, the blue is PRGR. We had a 0.4% variance in club speed between the two launch monitors over our test set. Ball speed was even closer. Ball speed was a 0.03% variance over the test set. So, again, much smaller device, doesn't measure nearly as much. I mean, $240 as opposed to $25,000. Really accurate still. So it's a cool little piece.
One other small thing on the PRGR I didn't mention when we were talking about it before, something that I've really liked a lot as we're talking about transferring things on course. I've been actually taking the PRGR to the course, and I'll just set it up behind me on a couple of holes here and there. And that's the kind of thing that you would take too long with something like a TrackMan. But I literally can turn it on, I can set it up, I can hit my ball, and all of a sudden I get club speed, ball speed, and I can see if I'm leaving too much out on the range, what I'm doing out on the golf course. That's been a really fun thing for me to utilize with PRGR lately.
I think we're going to see people doing that with the Blast program as well. Because, I mean, you can just Bluetooth that up to your phone and get it set up, and I mean, you can pretty much capture every, you could, I would say it'd be hard to switch between clubs, but if you wanted to just capture driver swings while you're out there, you could capture all your driver swings during that round. You could definitely start to see some tendencies on your course. And of course, you can definitely see transfer of if the speeds you're getting in your training are transferring out onto the golf course.
Yep. Yeah.
But I think theory-wise, you'll find it's kind of wild, and you'll see this with some tour players that are out there too. I mean, we just saw, Matt Fitzpatrick win the U.S. Open this last week. I mean, sporting 180 plus ball speed, which, I mean, that's insane to me. Like, we worked with him a little bit when he was actually at Northwestern for a year when we had our academy in Chicago, and I can tell you definitively he was nowhere close to 180 mile an hour ball speed then. So speed training's done some big things for that guy. But I think one of the other things you'll notice, like you saw it coming down like Sunday afternoon, those numbers started to creep up even a little bit more. You start to get some adrenaline in there, you start to get going, and everything even, you start to be able to pump the yardages even a little bit more. But anyway, congratulations to Matt. I hope he's doing well. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
All right. Next one.
This is my home base, Mike. This is what I do, right? This is what I've been doing with this kind of force plate technology. And I think as Mike's talked about, again, we've got on the right, this most advanced, this is that avatar you show to your friends and they say, what does it mean? And you say, I have no idea, but look how cool those blue arrows are. And this is where, again, I've been able to do a lot of great work in my lab to see the benefits that SuperSpeed is having on the way a golfer utilizes the ground. And then I think in the partnership we have with the force pedals, what a cool device that, I mean, it's not like mimicking a force plate because it doesn't capture the data, but to give someone a nice feel for how to utilize the ground, and those have been really incredible and really popular amongst a lot of golfers as we've started using them.
Again, here's how it goes, right? Coach measures it on the force plates. Player thinks it looks really cool. Coach tells player, Here's what we need to work on to make it better. Use this really easy device, these force pedals, and go through our force pedal protocol that we have on our website. Come back in 3 weeks later, measure it again on the force plates. Wow, it still looks really cool to the player. The coach is looking at it and says, wow, that's a whole lot better.
Yep.
I want to know, what does it actually do and how better does it get?
Yep, exactly. And this is one where, if we key into some things in the force plate that are really important, and I think this is just a basic thing that I think a lot of people can understand really well, Mike, where the force that is the most important is the vertical force. That is the case in almost every single biomechanics assessment I do, be it walking, running, jumping, cutting. The vertical force is the most important force. It drives nearly everything, right? There are others that are important, but this is the one that I think carries kind of the lion's share of things. And as we look at this force, there are two things we want to do, Mike. One, we want to generate more of it on our lead leg. And two, we want to generate it earlier in the downswing. Okay, those are kind of the two key components. If we can get golfers to both increase the magnitude or size of that force, and we can get that force going to the lead leg a bit earlier in the downswing, that's the recipe for tons of increases in speed. So this is a force profile, Mike, of one of the subjects in one of my studies, and I see this in a lot of the users, where you can see his red line was his pre-force, his blue line is his post-force. On that vertical axis, I just did this in body weight because that's something I think people can understand. If you weigh 200 pounds, 100% of your body weight means you're pushing on the ground with 200 pounds with that lead leg. And what you can see what happened with this golfer is they went from about 90-ish% of their body weight pre-super speed training to about 130% of their body weight post super speed training. So maybe from 180 pounds to 260 pounds, right? Huge change in the magnitude of the force. But maybe even more important, Mike, is the fact that look at where those forces peak. The yellow line is impact, which means pre-super speed training, his force was peaking as he hits the ball. Well, the problem with that is we want to use the ground to transfer energy out to the club. If you're peaking that force when your ball hits the ground, guess what? You're too late to the game, right? The ball's already gone and you can't utilize that force to transfer that energy. So what you can see is after speed training, he was able to peak that force at about 80 to 83% of the downswing, which is where more elite level ball strikers are peaking that force. And this is a question, Mike, even just, I think it was yesterday, someone on Twitter was asking me a question of, Tyler, what are the good drills to utilize the ground better so that I can increase force and increase the timing of the force? And this wasn't like someone that I just put in the Twitterverse to ask me a question that I thought was just a softball. And I said, the way we design the drills, that step drill, the hill stomp drill, the swinging the clubs fast, and paired with those force pedals, like that in and of itself is going to help so many golfers improve. And I've seen it over and over and over again, Mike. This golfer right here picked up 16 miles per hour of club head speed in 6 weeks of training.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the last one quickly. This is going to be 3D motion capture. This is something I've worked a lot with in my career. Tyler works a lot with now. There's a lot of different systems out there. Most of you are not going to go out and buy a $40,000, $50,000 gear system and put it in your house. But honestly, like the Blast sensor is a version of a 3D motion capture sensor called an inertial sensor. So there's simple versions of this and there's really complex versions of this. Essentially what we're measuring with 3D motion capture is the relative speeds of different main segments of our body. So we're measuring how fast these different segments rotate during the golf swing. And we know that there's a lot of relationships that show efficient patterns of rotation, efficient patterns of speed gain through these different segments, and there's very inefficient ways to do this. So that can help us a lot as coaches. Looking at some of the things we've seen with SuperSpeed, this is actually one of our studies that was in-house prior to Tyler's time working with and doing a lot of research with us, which I'd love to see him actually redo some of the 3D capture stuff as well at some point. But we actually can see about an 18% increase in the rotational velocity in the lower body and the hips, about a 16% in the torso, We see about an 8% in the lead arm and about a 6% increase in rotational velocity in the club. And when you factor all that out, and change this over to linear speed, that's where we see about that 5% gain in actual club speed. But, that's kind of some of the big stuff on 3D. I think this is like the closest thing I would say to a true MRI of your golf swing is getting 3D motion capture coupled with force plates. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean this is the full body everything. We're getting into the nitty gritty details, and I think again this is Mike where if you have an opportunity to do this at a facility somewhere or with a coach that really knows what's going on, which I think is a key component, this is a great opportunity to really look at your swing.
Yeah, and it is one of those where there's a 40-page report that this can spit out that you're not going to understand a word of. But at the same time, like I said, really cool avatar robot golfer. It's a lot of fun to do it. And as Tyler said, if the coach knows what they're looking at, this can be the fastest way to help you get better at your golf game.
Yep.
All right. That's all I got right now, Tyler. I think we should take some questions. What do you think?
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. I don't, just as we're kind of getting, maybe as Kyle's getting some questions funneled in, if you joined me yesterday for the Instagram live about the Blast, there was one piece that I think is kind of cool to add with the Blast. And that is some of my favorite things about it are when you talk about video, Blast actually has this cool video function as well, where not only will it capture the videos of those swings, Mike, but it actually like auto crops them to the swing itself because it knows when your swing bottomed out. So you don't have to go in and like you're sending a video to your coach and play around with the cropping. It will crop it because it knows when your downswing was, when your backswing was. So that's a really key kind of cool component of Blast. And the other thing I like too, when I'm doing my speed training with Blast, is it literally calls out to me my speeds. So like I do it out on my back patio a lot, and I'll set down my phone, I'll log into the app, I'll take those swings, and it will just call out to me that, I'm not going to say the speeds because I don't want anyone to feel badly, but that's been kind of a cool piece of the Blast as well that I think is exciting. So
yeah, sorry about that. A little technical difficulty there when I stopped that share, but I am now back.
No worries.
All right, Kyle, have we had some questions come in?
Yes, Mike. Just before we get started into the questions, for anyone that is looking for any of these products, several of the smaller ones are on our website, the Force Pedals, Live View, PRGR Blast. If anyone wants to purchase any of those, you could enter the code SS Technology, and we'll give you a discount on any of those products on any of our North America or European UK sites. So hopefully that helps you guys make a decision if you don't have any of those. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A chat instead of the chat feature. It's easier for us to see those and respond.
I just saw that one come through, Kyle, about there being a demonstration video about how to use the Blast sensor in a speed training session. There will be very soon. We're actually producing that right now. But when you get the Blast unit, it does have a lot of great tutorials on exactly how to get everything working, how to hook it up, how to connect it, how to get it Bluetooth to your phone, all of those kind of things. And when you go into the speed training portion of the app, it will walk you through, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But yes, we will have a video walkthrough of that coming here in the next few days, hopefully.
Great. And yes, everyone will get a recording that registered for this. It should go out tomorrow morning. Just one more in the chat feature, and we'll move to the Q&A. Does Blast app aggregate swing data to provide averages or trends, or does it just give feedback on the individual swings?
So currently right now, it'll give you the averages of the session in terms of kind of what you did for that session, which I actually think can be really indicative of what your training session was like. It may be that you didn't reach your very peak speed with one of the clubs, but maybe across the board, overall, your swings were a little bit faster. So I think that's something that's really nice. As well as Mike pointed out, it will separate green club from blue club from red club, dominant from non-dominant. So you can go in and quickly take a look at some of those trends you have. Mike talked about how we're already in the work process of this like level 2 iteration of this. And that's going to include a lot of quick analyses where it can compare how much faster are you than the driver, and how much speed have you gained on the green club? And so, that's stuff that's all coming as well.
Thanks, Tyler. All right, we got a couple of questions, which will be good to review about if somebody doesn't have a PRGR or a Blast, which one should they start with? How could they maybe pre-qualify that? And just to make sure people understand the differences between them, how they both are complementary of each other, not necessarily competing, kind of depends on what you're looking for. So if Mike or Tyler want to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they do some similar things, but at the same time, I do think that they do them differently. So, if you're somebody that really likes using like app-based things on your phone, and you want, that sensor that's going to Bluetooth to the app and kind of auto track it, knowing that, there might be a little bit more setup involved in that. You are going to have to move the sensor to the different clubs and the different club caps during your training. If those are things that you feel like you would really like to do, and, you like that situation, I think Blast is definitely for you. If you want a little bit lower tech, I would say that PRGRs, put some batteries in it, sit it down behind you, and it's going to show you how fast you're going. Advantage there, little faster to set up. There's no, Bluetoothing to an app. There's no setting up a session on the app, none of that. Downside, there's no tracking. There's no auto tracking of the swings. You have to, if you're going to track them, you need to basically write down those swings based on the numbers that the radar's coming up. So I think it's a lot of personal preference there. I love having the PRGR sitting there to get that feedback of every swing that I get, whether I was tracking it with a Blast sensor or not. I'd probably, have the Blast sensor tracking the whole session so I could look at the data afterwards, and using that PRGR for the individual swing feedback would be the best way I would put it.
Perfect. And just to note, there's no ball data with the Blast, so you can get ball speed and smash factor, total, and carry distance with the PRGR. So like I said, Tyler mentioned there's putting on the Blast Motion, there's short game, bunker play, lots of different things that you would not get with the PRGR or vice versa with the Blast. So really cool kind of combo there if you have one or the other already.
Yep.
Next question, someone was asking about how accurately does Blast track club head speed compared to PRGR, and also maybe how it works since it's in the handle and it's inertial sensor versus how PRGR differs and how it tracks with its technology.
Boy, I'd love to almost have like one of the Blast engineers on to answer that one. But yeah, I mean, look, here's the basics of an inertial sensor, right? It can measure how it moves in space from a rotational standpoint. So if you think about like one of those fancy like XYZ axes, it can measure how it rotates in any direction in space. And if you orient that in such a way on a golf club, for the SuperSpeed club, since there's no real club head, you just orient it pretty much any way you want, you can mathematically calculate how fast a club of X length is moving, at any point that is within association to that sensor. That'd be a good way to put that, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to point it. And I think that as the part of that question is, how does it compare to the PRGR? I think it's important to note that they are measuring speeds differently, right? Mike just described really nicely how Blast is utilizing, this inertial sensor in the hand and then some kind of biomechanical equations to get out to the club head, whereas the PRGR is shooting out a radar and just detecting that. I think the important piece is that, there are going to be some things that we have to do setup wise to be the most accurate we can. That's true with the PRGR. If we set it up improperly, it's going to give us improper readings. With those inertial sensors, it is looking for a pattern in what we're doing. So in the testing that I've done, it's looking for that club to kind of start stationary and move backwards. Okay, that's the pattern it's looking for. So that's kind of a key part of the Blast sensor. The other part of it too is depending upon how you utilize kind of your hands in the golf swing, because it is measuring it in that location. Most of the time my Blast was within a couple of miles per hour of my PRGR. Occasionally I would get a reading that was a little bit off. And partially that might be because of the way I had it set up or the way I started the swing. But yes, those are going to be slightly different, but typically they're within just a couple miles per hour of each other.
I think it's also important to realize that it's good to measure apples to apples and oranges to oranges, right? Comparing the blast sensor data to the PRGR data, they're measuring things so differently. You're going to be better off measuring PRGR to PRGR is going to be very consistent for your swing. Blast to blast is also going to be very consistent for your swing.
Yep.
And because mainly what we're trying to do here is see change in your swing from one point in time to another, as long as you're measuring apples to apples, oranges to oranges, you're all good. We've definitely seen people though that like have been measuring it with let's say a Foresight launch monitor and measured all their swing speeds on Foresight, and then all of a sudden they went and measured on TrackMan and it was different. Well, there's details there of how those systems measure that speed that can give you different results. But as long, again, as you're measuring on the same system throughout the training, you're pretty much good to go and you're going to see trends.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I think these are reliable measurement tools when we use them to compare against themselves. Don't use Blast for one session and then go to PRGR the next week and wonder what's going on, right? Just kind of utilize them in as you look at your trends of growth. So good point.
Yep.
Important couple things to note: if someone already owns a Blast sensor, it's the Generation 3. The air swing mode is live in the app. The Android version will be ready next week, which is great, and it's already on iOS. So you can already pair that with your SuperSpeed set. It has to be the adult 3-club overspeed set, so that's the only one that's in there right now, which would be your men's, ladies, or senior. We're working on some others, but those are the ones that are calibrated for it and will work best. Another question is, when you're using the Blast, to use it for every swing of the session. So could you guys maybe talk about that, and also how it records non-dominant swings as well, and how you can filter those?
Yeah, I mean, you could choose what I've done and suggested, and like Mike said, we'll have that video out. When you order it through there, you'll get the 3 caps. Now, if you already have an existing Blast and you only have 1 cap, in whatever club you have it on, those are the swings that you're going to register. So if you
we'll have those available as well too, Tyler.
Yeah, good point. But that's something where I mean, to me, if like the Blast is so easy to use that when I do it, I register all 39 swings. I get them all in there. I think it's the best way. It's not taking you any more time to do it. And like Kyle had brought up, it actually knows what's the dominant or non-dominant swing, and so you can easily kind of group those to each other. And I think, again, to see those trends throughout, I would push people to measure every swing, but again, I'm the guy that wants more data. So
that looks like most of the Q&A. I just had one other one, maybe talking about making sure if you have any type of pre-existing injuries or any type of pain. Tyler, maybe you can talk to the pairing of a gym routine and also importance of our dynamic warm-up.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I can't stress enough to players is, we've created those dynamic warm-ups because it is important to warm up your body. I was able to present last month to a national physical therapy group talking about this, and we really focused a lot on, one, making sure that you do a really nice warm-up, making sure that body is ready to go, and two, that idea of, in the best case scenario, you are pairing this with a strength and conditioning program. That being said, I will say that I think there are plenty of golfers who have enough strength that they can stand to put some speed on that strength. I think maybe after those first maybe 6 to 8 weeks, then it's something that, you might need to really kind of dive into some of those strength things. But one cool, just quick example, I used my dad who had 2 shoulder replacements. And I just had him swing the lightest club just to get some good range of motion and get some things back once he was cleared by a doctor to take golf swings. And I just held out the heavier clubs for a little while, and I'm just slowly introducing those heavier clubs. And so I think that's something that can be utilized. But we've seen a lot of really great results with those who do the trainings the way they're outlined, make sure they do the dynamic warm up. Don't overtrain, right? Just doing it the 3 times a week, taking those proper rest periods. And I think you can be really successful in this.
Yeah, I mean, look, we would love for every player that uses SuperSpeed, to have a, great golf coach and a great fitness trainer and a physio, and, basically have the same team around that any PGA Tour player would. It's just not reality for a lot of players. So we've tried to work a lot of the things into our training, like the good warm up, I think especially a lot of the non-dominant training we do that can really help a lot of people catch up in some ways physically. And then, yeah, I mean, if you want to take it to the next level after you do those initial training, initial cycle, I think there's definitely some ways to personalize that training, get in the gym, do some supporting stuff that can really help you do that. Tyler, I see this question from Dan Wagner about the non-dominant green club swing correlation. I mean, look, we've seen so much positive come out of the non-dominant training that we've done over the years with SuperSpeed. I mean, again, I think people are just batshit crazy if they're not doing it. Tyler, you got to tell them about the recent study you did where you only had people swing on the non-dominant side.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where, as Mike pointed out, a lot of our users aren't doing a ton in the gym. They don't have a specialized golf fitness trainer that they're working with. And so if that's the case, we need you working from both sides, right? It's important for you to work left to right, right to left if you're a right-handed golfer. And so this was something we were so passionate about that we said, hey, let's actually do a study where we bring in right-handed golfers and we're going to have them speed train, and they're only going to take left-handed super speed swings. They never once took a right-handed super speed swing. And I had them go for 6 weeks. I had them on my force plates. And I saw incredible results in swing speed. They increased swing speed by about 6% in 6 weeks, which would be maybe a little bit on the high end of some of the stuff we've seen. And then this was really cool, Mike, because again, having an opportunity to be down at TPI this last weekend, we were looking at force plates as part of their power certification. And there was a variable that we were looking at and talking about. And I'm like, hey, that variable went up 30% in the non-dominant swing study. And we started brainstorming together as a group. And it was like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense, because in a non-dominant swing, you're using your lead leg as a trail leg. And so this variable that was really important to ground reaction force production saw incredible results, incredible changes. So again, this isn't a kooky magic thing. The force improved, the swing speeds improved with only non-dominant training.
We're going to do more research to come. So there's a lot more coming out non-dominant. I would love to see some like EMG studies of muscle activation and changes of muscle activation in the dominant side with doing non-dominant training. There's a lot of good studies out there that show the performance results of it. I want to start to get into some more of the whys, but yeah, it's definitely a good thing. I like I said, I think people are kind of crazy if they're not doing it.
Let's just finish with this one last question here, Mike, from Hans. Any issues doing super speed training and playing an important round the same day? I think it'd be great just maybe how people could periodize that, and also kind of our new training protocols with the peak type of times to train and then the down times.
Yeah, absolutely, Hans. I mean, the answer to that question is it depends on how long you've been doing the training and where you are in one of the cycles. So if you look at our training site, you're going to see 3 different training phases. During that first training phase, you're going to have like a primary phase where you're kind of getting those changes before and after, and you're really training hard, and you go into more of a maintenance phase. I would say do not do super speed training before an important round if you're in a primary training phase, especially the first time you've ever done this, because you're going to see differences before and after at that point. And the last time I checked, 10 yards over the green still sucks. So, the idea before that really important round is to know exactly how far your 7-iron goes. I'm not going to do training for you before that round that's going to make your 7-iron go 8 yards further. Like, that doesn't make sense. Now, once you get into the maintenance phases and you've been doing the training longer, there's not that big change before and after. Then it's perfectly fine to do the training on the same day as those rounds. Check out, those training cycles. There's a lot of information on our website. There's also some great warm-up protocols if you don't have a lot of time. We have all of that stuff there for you, depending on how much time you have, how much time before the round. There's various different things you can do. It's all on our training site. Check it out, and I hope it helps.
Thanks, Mike. Want to call it there?
Yeah, well, there's that one that train 3 days a week. Can I play on my off days? You can play on the days you do super speed. Like I said, I just if you had started super speed golf a week ago, I don't think you should be playing in the US Open that next day. Like, there's going to be change, but at the same time, the off days will be, fine to play for sure in that first part. But yeah, that's kind of the last piece. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. Kyle, thanks for feeding us those questions. Tyler, thanks for playing the role of mad scientist as usual.
Yeah, this is perfect. I have a post data collection on a SuperSpeed C Club study that I'm doing. And I've got a post data collection up at a TrackMan facility here in about 5 minutes. So excited to get that wrapped up and have more to share. Again, I think this has been the cool thing, Mike, as we look at technology. I've been really impressed as SuperSpeed has just given me the green light to just keep using technology to research these projects or products to make them better and better for our users. So thanks for having me, Mike.
No, you're welcome. And thanks for everybody that hung around and spent some time with us this afternoon. I hope you got something that's going to help your golf game. Get out there and bomb it. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, if there's anything we can do to help, please feel to reach out to our team. Thanks, everybody, and bye.